Hello there, everybody, and a very warm welcome back here to the Drawing TV of today. As you know, today we have come to the fourth and the last part of my small series here about the three fundamental cornerstones in drawing. In the first video, I talked about them all three of them briefly: form, contour, light and shadow, and we have now gone through in a little more detail about form and contour, and now I'm going to tell you a little bit about light and shadow. Light and shadow, or value as it's actually called in artsy language, which is the different tones of dark and light in your drawings or paintings, are what I like to call the icing on the cake, the crown on the piece of art, the master thing you see in the top layer of your drawing, and also in painting, of course. And it's very important to understand that to really arrive at some really captivating and magical light and shade in your drawings, it's super important that you first work with form and with the contour. Now, I could talk endlessly about this, but these are very short videos, so I better move on. So I have one thing I can squeeze into this video today that is hugely important about light and shadow. So I'm not going to tell you all kinds of fancy things about how the light might fall in this and that way and blah blah. What is really important to understand is that no matter what you're drawing, unless you're just drawing a line drawing without light and shadow, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about full-blown drawings with light and shadow of value. It's very important to understand that to have an interesting drawing, to draw attention to a drawing, you should focus on making an interesting scheme of gray tones, of value tones that kind of underpins each other, the different parts of your drawing. So when you put on light and shadow, you can choose a number of things. We can say that in the one end of the scale, you can have very light and subtle drawings with just a minimum of light and shade, and in the middle you can have, that's what we would call high key drawings, with high key, lots of light. And in the middle you might have drawings that kind of mimics natural daylight, that is, some light and some shadow, average light and shade, and that can be very naturalistic also. I think that's what we do in many of our drawings, actually. But in the other extreme of the scale, we can have what we call low key light and shadow schemes, where you have lots of shadow and darkness, but still you have to put in some light, of course. So it's not just going to be black all over or super dark, so you can't see what's going on. And the point in this, and you can also do other things, of course, but that's just to make it simple, to imagine a scale where you can do a number of things ranging from very light drawings to like medium, very balanced drawing to very dark drawings. But no matter what you choose, no matter where you're going and what your style is, no matter if naturalistic or hyper-realistic or cartoonish or expressive or whatever, there are some key things, and that is, one of them is to really incorporate an interesting scheme of gray tones. Now in terms of drawing, we often talk about gray tones, but really this also is relevant for color, but we're not going to go there. So let's talk about gray tones. So as a minimum for beginner students, I always say that you should think about putting in, except from white and black, that's number 4 and 5, but in between white and black, you should think of working with 3 steps of gray tones or value. 1 light tone, 1 middle, and 1 relatively dark. And on the other sides of this you have the highlights and the very dark black areas. But really try to incorporate in some manner 3 key values in your drawings, no matter if it's in the light, the middle, or the very dark end of the scale in your drawing. Try to make these 3 gray tones plus white and black work with the elements in your drawing. Like, for example, if you have a dark figure, it can be a good idea to make the background lighter, or the opposite. If you have a light figure, you might think of making the background darker. It's not always that easy. Maybe you have 5, 6, 7, 10 elements that has to kind of work together, and it can be a real puzzle. But it's really, really a key point. Now, I can't put much more into this video. This is such a huge area. But I was really thinking about if I should give you one key piece of advice about light and shadow in this very small video. It should be that you should focus on balancing your drawing with 3 key values plus white and black. And really try to solve that riddle in your drawing. Very often, if something doesn't work, it's because the values are too flat, or 2 areas doesn't underpin, it doesn't underline each other or complement each other well enough. That can always be solved in another way with some strong line work, but that's a whole different story. Today I just wanted to give you this super important tip about making really good light and shade in your drawing. I'm so glad you made it all the way to the end of this small series. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it, and I really have put a lot of thought into what I can squeeze into these small videos. So have a very lovely day, and I'll see you at another Drawing TV.